Ethan Tingler, front tire changer for the 3-car Austin Dillon. You're listening to Back of the Pack podcast on Fantasy Focus. Hell yeah.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 34 of the Back of the Pack podcast. Here we are on Fantasy Focus, brought to you by the original Hooters in partnership with Monkey Knife Fight. Ryan Levy here with my boy Alex Freeman. We are headed into the final leg of the first round of the NASCAR playoffs. We got the Bass Pro Shops NRA night race on Saturday night. How you doing, Freeman? It's been a while, buddy.
I'm doing great. Yeah, we're doing a round one wrap up here. Been out of the mix for a couple weeks at the start of football, but you're looking forward to covering briefly the last 2 weeks of action here in the NASCAR playoffs, and like you said, the NRA night race here coming up. Something that is a hot button topic for many in and outside the sport.
Yeah, I love to see that they're going on a Saturday night race here because with football and everything, it'll still keep my interest.
Yeah, for sure, and especially with Chase winning the All-Star race when they were in Bristol last, I know you're going to be glued to the TV. Chase is as good a shot as anyone in the top 5-10 in points to take a win here. So with our boy Chase and Denny looking to have an exciting weekend, I know that I'm going to be glued to the TV, especially with the end of the first round coming up here. There's a lot to be won and lost in a lap here at Bristol. So excited to really just dive into it. Just to give a quick refresher here,
Yes.
those who are joining us after a couple week of a hiatus here. The first round of playoffs, we got a chalky win. We got our boy Harvick take a W at Darlington. An enjoyable race, and then last weekend we had the Rat. Mr. Kez took a W at Richmond. So that was one of the more odd races at Richmond. It was very quiet, not a lot of cautions,
right.
A lot of green flag laps. So I'm hoping that that changes a bit this weekend at Bristol, with it being the last race of the first round. I expect not too many green flag runs, and I expect a lot of beating and banging amongst those bubble drivers to make it into the next round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I was going to say, so this is go time, right? It's basically get in the top 12 or go home at this point. So we're rounding down from 16 to 12, correct?
You got it. So this is, NASCAR has made a lot of these changes for, with our entertainment in mind. We had Darlington night race, Richmond night race, Bristol night race, 3 trophy tracks, crown jewel tracks in the sport, all on, Friday, Sunday or Saturday night respectively. And, that's in conjunction with, providing that entertainment, but also to miss the other, big draw events like the NFL, like we mentioned.
Right.
So, these guys are kind of dodging other events in an effort to attract as much fan attention as possible. So this is a heck of a first round of the playoffs. I think one of my favorite first rounds from a track setup perspective. But looking ahead, we have a pretty good mix of tracks as well between the Roval and other intermediate and super speedway tracks.
For sure, man. And I got to say, I just love the way, and I know I've said this a million times in these 30-something episodes of this podcast, but I just love the way that NASCAR is run. The efficiency and the way they alter their strategy and they tweak things. And, just a simple thing as having, for week 2 of the NFL, having Bristol on Saturday night rather than Sunday, because that a lot of people are going to be tuning into this. So I'm excited for it. I do want to ask you, what are the odds here? Like, a William Byron, Custer, DiBenedetto, Blaney. What are the odds? These are the guys in the final 4, in the back 4, I should say, back of the pack in terms of the playoffs. What do you think about these guys headed into this track?
Oh, I mean, a year ago, we were talking about DiBenedetto almost winning this race before he got passed up by Denny Hamlin in a heartbreaker. That tore that kid apart. But he's now in an even stronger machine, but again, up against some very stiff competition. So I think of the 4, Blaney and DiBenedetto have the best shot to get in the playoffs via a win. Byron's really close to that cutoff line. He could point his way in, especially with Boyer being, I don't know, I think he's less than 10 points above that cut line. So, that's one corner, that's one stage of a difference. But Blaney, DiBenedetto are definitely in a win or go home situation. Blaney has been very, very adamant about his desires to wreck anyone in front of him to get a W. So I'm going to be watching him to kind of take the bull by the horns and climb up the field and try and get a W. But De Benedetto is someone who did really well there last year,
Right.
again, in stronger equipment, but he hasn't been someone that has shown that he can, succeed under pressure. He's an up and coming driver who is in, previously underperforming gear and hasn't had the chance to fend off a former champion in the waning laps of a race. So I'm concerned for De Benedetto's, his stamina, if you will, and I'm concerned with Blaney's, need to win. So I
Right.
think if anyone in here, Byron has the best chance to point his way in. Boyer's the most vulnerable on the other side of the cut line, but then De Benedetto has the best chance to win his way in, this weekend. So it's going to be, a lot of fun to watch. But there's someone that was in that kind of Final Four conversation that isn't anymore, and that's the driver of the three machine. With our buddy Ting. So
Yeah.
Austin Dillon has been big dick in it, man. He just flopped it out on the table. He
Love it.
scored the most points in stages last weekend, and he had a hell of a race at Darlington. So
Well, he
we
finished
looked at,
second at Darlington, didn't he?
yeah, he's finished top three, I think, in the last two races, or something like that. He's sixth in points. He's strutting his stuff. And to think a few weeks ago, he was out of the car in Dover with COVID, and now he's having the best, three race stint of his life. So a lot to be said for Austin Dillon. I think a lot of people are respecting him a bit more. And, he's not just a family driver anymore. He's not a driver of the Earnhardt 3. He's now, a driver of the RCR number 3 who is really making a name for himself now that team's come around and Chevy's really caught up to the pack. So, I drew Austin last week in our pool, and I was sitting there glued to my TV yelling, like, go, come on, man. Like I haven't enjoyed a race so much than I did last week when Austin Dillon was coming and going to the field. It was fun for me.
Yeah, I've been hyped up to see him lately. I mean, that team is really gelling nicely right now. And in terms of our pool, Bucky finally took one home. He got the rat drawn last week, so I think it was his first win of our NASCAR pool on a weekly basis.
Yeah, perfect timing for Buck. I'm gonna be excited to see him back here next week, hopefully. But I know he's got some other things to tend to, so he's here in spirit.
For sure. So do you think Dillon has a chance, like outside chance, to win the championship? Let's say he wins this race this weekend, right? And he picks up another win down the stretch here. Does he have a legit chance to be in the Final Four?
I think if he makes it past this round, he has a legit chance as anybody. The only thing that is going to get in his way is his lack of stage points and additional playoff points. So after this race, Saturday, not tomorrow, 2 days, the points will be reset. So no matter how many points they have, they will be reset, and the margins will be based on playoff points. So all the points that these drivers accumulated up to that point for the playoffs will then prioritize them in the playoffs. So for example, this is not a specific number, but Kevin Harvick, let's say he has 30 playoff points and Austin Dillon has 5. After this race on Saturday, Austin Dillon will be 25 points behind Kevin Harvick going into the first race of the second round. No questions asked. So drivers like Harvick, Keselowski, Hamlin, they have an inherent advantage from their success earlier in the year, which helps them battle through adversity if they have a bad race. But for Austin Dillon, he doesn't have the cushion of these drivers if he were to have a mistake. So he needs a little bit more playoff points. It'd be great for him to get some stage wins or even a race win to carry additional 1, 2, 3 points, from round to round. But if he continues his hot streak here, it doesn't matter what he did before. If he finishes top 3, top 5 every weekend, he's going to advance. And if he can make it to the Final Four, anything can happen. And I would love to see, an unsung kind of hero pop up in there and at least insert their name into the mix. It's unlikely he would win, but just it'd be cool to see the 3 car there on championship weekend. Something that never has been done before.
Yeah. So championship weekend, just to recap, is one race, Final Four, right?
All the marbles. So the final race will be set by that formula that we've discussed, over the weeks, a combination of fastest lap, starting position, running position, blah, blah, blah. And once that green flag is dropped, all bets are off. The person who finishes the furthest ahead of others is the winner, no matter if they win the race or don't. So it's a race within a race within a race.
Right. Okay, I got you. Doesn't part of you kind of wish that for the NASCAR playoffs they would just start the points from scratch?
Kinda, I do, but also I think it would devalue really what the teams do during the year, and it's something that I think is important for to incentivize drivers to continue to push it and win. They continue to get points. Now, my concern would be if they did a complete reset for the last 10 races. Once you're in the playoff, let's say you win a race, you can go out and use every single lap as a test run. And to incentivize drivers to continue to work hard for wins, I think helps the integrity of the sport rather than saying, hey, if you win in the first 26 races, you're in. So let's say Kevin Harvick wins the Daytona 500, he could spend the next 25 races just testing out his shit instead of actually running to get an advantage in the playoffs. Unlikely that would ever happen, but that comes to mind playing devil's advocate. I kind of like this new system. Again, as we talk about all the time, we love NASCAR's ability to be nimble and make these changes. And I think they will always be tinkering with these lineups and these points.
Sure.
And I think as long as they're doing that, like we always say, they're going to be delivering the value we want.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So before we get into some of the odds and stuff like that for this race, and then we'll wrap up the episode with some general NASCAR news. I was doing a little bit of research on this race. So, I just Googled Bass Pro Shops night race, and I kept getting the NRA logo coming up. So like, what's the deal here and this is, we got to talk about the tough things once in a while here, but are they just like hush hush NRA is still sponsoring this thing or what? Like, how does this happen?
So this is, I don't know, this is far from unofficial, but from my perspective, NRA, this is always the NRA night race or the Bass Pro Shop night race over the last, few years. But of course, the political climate and everything that's going on, kind of being brushed under the rug a little bit, just because of the the fangs associated with things like the NRA in today's climate. So when you look at it, like you said on Google, it's the Bass Pro Shops night race at Bristol. It's not that's not the Bass Pro Shops NRA race. So I think it's a little bit of strategery on NASCAR's side to play it down a little bit and not have fans dismiss the race before it even happens. But I also think it's smart because when even someone who loves NASCAR, when I see NRA, I'm like, shit, when someone reads this, that's not a NASCAR fan, what do they think of this? So,
well, I mean, even I'm thinking me like producing this episode, this live show on YouTube. I'm looking for a thumbnail. I'm like, I can't include NRA on this thing.
Yeah, and if you do, you might get all the views for right and wrong reasons, and you're going to definitely get the heads talking. But I think NASCAR is very aware of the product they put out there, and they have been doing things to, I guess, lessen the spiciness of some of these sponsorships and partnerships, because NASCAR traditionally sides with the people traditionally side with those kind of agreements. So over the years they're continuing to transform and be more diverse and appeal to a larger group. So with that comes picking and choosing some names for races, and I think NRA is going to find themselves kind of falling down the ranks when it comes to their name in the sport.
I just found that interesting, and I had to bring it up real quick. But I mean,
a lot of people find it interesting too. If you Googled it right now, there's a lot of folks chatting about why is this? What are they hiding? It's not something that they publicize a lot why they're doing it, but we can read between the lines and kind of figure it out.
Right. I get it for sure. All right. So for the odds here, Harvick's the favorite at plus 650, Kyle Busch plus 650. Why Kyle Busch? I know he's been better.
Yeah. This is his track, though. This is his track. I mean, this is the Busch brothers. If you forget Darrell Waltrip ever was a driver in NASCAR, this is Kyle and Kurt Busch city. I think that Busch has the bestest shot as he's had all year to take a win here. I think it was a year and a half ago during the spring race at Bristol. We bet on Kyle Busch to win, and he was like maybe plus 150. He crashed in the first lap, came back and won it. So that this is kind of his place. And again, he's coming on strong. You've seen his teammates do well. Truex is getting stronger. Hamlin's kind of faded a little bit, so I don't know if Truex and Kyle Busch now have a little bit more of the secret sauce than Hamlin. But don't count any of those Joe Gibbs drivers out in those top three cars. I think Eric Jones kind of that ship has sailed, but I think Truex, Kyle Busch, and Denny Hamlin all are on even playing field here in the playoffs going into Bristol.
Oh yeah, love it, man. I'm curious to see what Kyle Busch's Monkey Knife Fight numbers are at. We'll take a look at those here shortly as well. What about like good value? Who do you like
It's
for a
a hard
dark
one.
throw?
I'm emotional on this pick because I want him to win so bad, but I also am thinking about the emotions present in the car for this driver. So the Benedetto presents, I think, great value at what I think is plus 5,000 to win, plus 1,200 for a top three. I think he finished second a year ago, in a much lesser equipment. So again, this is not someone who has the fortitude of a seasoned driver, but if he's in the right place at the right time, I think he can walk away with a strong top three, top five. I think his top 10 odds are under 200 or 300. I wouldn't even play on that. But if you feel confident about the Benedetto coming out and having a strong run, that top three is reasonable. My only concern is he's a winner go home. So if he finds himself in second place with 2 laps to go and he pushes the pedal to the metal there and he finds himself in the wall, that's kind of a shitty
You're
situation to be
SOL.
in as a
Yeah.
gambler. So
Right.
that's why I have a hard time being very confident in my bets with bubble drivers because there's so many intangibles. And the same thing goes for Chase Elliott. We've seen him get in so many run-ins with the Joe Gibbs cars and all these different drivers at Penske. Even if he's winning late and the Rat or Kyle Busch or Truex is behind him, he could, there's some emotions there. So I'm hesitant to make some of these bets on some of these drivers outright who have had run-ins because Bristol is known historically as the last great Coliseum, a bunch of beating and banging. There's a reason this is the last race in the first round is because NASCAR knows people can use their bumpers and a bunch of feelings are going to be hurt. It's more about picking the person you think is going to stay out of trouble this weekend. And I think that's really the best strategy to go with.
Oh, you're getting me excited for this race because there's going to be a lot of cautions. Maybe we'll even see someone get punched in the face after the race. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
some birds flying, some helmets flying, some water bottles, man. I want to see a bloody nose, man. What would be the odds for a bloody nose in NASCAR this weekend? Like
Oh,
plus 8,000?
right. That would be awesome. Like I want to see blood coming down the mask, like
Yes,
down his chin.
during an interview.
Oh man. All right, let's look before we get into the news. I want to take a quick look here at Monkey Knife Fight so that we can see what the numbers are looking like.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll even throw in.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Whew.
Like they're all over it, dude. They are all over the fact that this is the Busch brothers track here because Kyle Busch hasn't seen a 19.5 fantasy point total on Monkey Knife Fight since last year.
Yeah, last Bristol. So I mean, we get to keep in mind we're a little bit, a few of the races that we covered last on the podcast when it came to Monkey Knife Fight were shorter races, so those numbers were less because there was a lot less laps to lead. So here with 500 laps, there's a lot more potential for either one driver to get a shit ton of points by leading a lot of the laps, or a higher opportunity for those points to be spread across other drivers. So looking at the starting lineup, if I'm not mistaken, I think Harvick, Hamlin, Austin Dillon are kind of the top 3 or 4 drivers, 3 or 5 drivers heading into the start of the race. I just don't feel that Harvick is going to be there at the right time. I have a lot of faith in Denny and a lot of faith in Chase this weekend. Just kind of a blind optimism kind of play. But 20 and a half points is a lot. That's a lot. I mean, even if he leads 100 laps, he would still need to finish, pretty well up into the top order of the field to achieve that point. And at Bristol, under these circumstances, even though he's locked in, he can be a victim of other people's mistakes very quickly.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say, if you guys have never played on Monkey Knife Fight before as well, I guess I should explain how the scoring works. But you only get a 1/10 of a point for every lap led. And then you get a first place finish, gets you 20, second place 19, third place 18, down to 20th place will get you 1 point. And if you've never played on Monkey Knife Fight before, make sure you use code FOCUSED when you sign up, and you'll get yourself a 100% match bonus there. But I don't know, man, for this specific contest, I feel like I want to fade it. We like the rapid fire contest better, but I just wanted to see what the point totals were at so we could have a better idea. But just so you have a idea for point of reference here, Chase is at 17.5, Joey Logs at 16.5. Any thoughts on those guys?
Yeah, Joey, if you remember, Joey was leading the race when he and Chase collided in the spring at this race. So,
Right.
Keselowski has really had a strong car of recent, rather than just taking advantage of Austin Dillon, not Austin Dillon, but Chase Elliott's mistakes and winning a couple races earlier this year. Last weekend at Richmond, he was the fastest car and the best car in the field. He took that home and got a W. I think that the Penske cars are the strongest Fords for Bristol, and they're going to outshine those SHR cars on these short tracks. But when it comes down to the two of them, I think I would pick Logano over Kez. I would pick Elliott over a Kevin Harvick. But looking at these points, I think we fade Elliott here a bit, but we would go more on Logano, someone who is just going to have a quiet day and finish in that top 3 or 4.
Got it. So speaking of Kez, he's at 18.5, which is pretty high as well. But like you said, I mean, he's running hot. You feel good about that?
Well, he's starting on the pole too. So
Right.
I imagine they'll have that competition caution in that first 25, 35 laps. That's potentially an easy 3 to 4 points for Brad or Joey. So depending on how the cards fall out of the gate, you're gonna find the early favorite in these more or less competitions, from a leader, at that competition caution, because laps led will make the difference. It's an equation. We're not just looking for the winner and the second place driver. We're looking for the top 5 finisher who leads the most laps. That's really
Right.
the most consistent strategy to win at these kind of competitions. And while it's not easy to pick, it's much easier when you have a strategy going into it rather than picking all willy-nilly like we did at the start of our monkey knife fight careers.
We've come a long way for sure, which is why we love these rapid fires. Rapid fires are what's up. You get 3 out of 3 here, and you get 3 extra buy-in. So buy-in for $10, get yourself 30. And again, you're playing against the house. You're not playing against a bunch of industry sharks out there. So basically, in rapid fire, you're pitting 2 drivers against each other, and in some cases, you're getting fantasy points on either side. So in the first matchup here, we've got Denny versus Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch is plus 1.5. If we really believe in Kyle Busch, are we going to fade Denny here?
Oh,
I can't do it.
Yeah, and when they're starting literally, butt to face, Denny in 7th and Kyle in 9th. So these guys are going to be around each other every lap, all day. They're in similar equipment. Again, while they're at they're teammates in the playoffs, I think they have their best product on the track. I'm going to go with Denny just because of his success this year. If Kyle beats him, it's because he wins outright, not because he's in a higher position,
Right.
in the finishing order.
I'm with you on that for sure. Then we've got Harvick versus Kez. Harvick is actually an underdog by a 0.5 point. I don't think Harvick has been an underdog to anyone on this platform all year.
No, they know something that we don't, and actually, I think we also know it. But Harvick just isn't showing up of recent at Bristol. So there's definitely ringers in the field at the bull ring here in Bristol. I'm going to go with Kez. He's on a hot streak again. He's starting out front. His teammates starting beside him. I would not be surprised if team orders were in play and you see those guys get single file very quickly to avoid the on charge from the Truexes and the Hamlins, the Hardicks and the Dillons of the world. So look for Kez to outbreak early to set himself apart from the field.
Love it, man. All right, and then the last one here, we've got Chase versus Joey Logs. Joey Logs is plus 1.5. I have a feeling you're going to go Joey Logs here.
I want to really bad, but what's hurting me is Chase won the last time we were here at Bristol under the lights in the All-Star race. While the format was much different, I expect those short runs to be something that we see a lot of in this race, where the All-Star race had a lot of short segments, short sprints. I don't expect to have 70, 80, 90 lap runs here at Bristol. So what he learned in that race out front, I think is valuable. But again, he has a lot riding on this race. He's got a lot of individuals out for his neck. He's out for a lot of others' necks. And these two specifically have some shit. So I'm going to go with Logs here just because if they both finish outside of the top 20, Logs gets the W. And I think if, when it comes down to that last lap, Logano will not pull back on spinning Chase for that win. No matter the situation, because they always find, they're like magnets, man. Chase Elliott, Slovis Logano are always just right on top of each other, and it's going to happen again this weekend. It's just a matter of who comes out on top.
It sounds like we're going to have an action-packed Saturday night at Thunder Valley, aka the last great Coliseum,
Yes.
aka
There we
the
go.
Bull Ring,
Yes. Keep them coming. I love it. Give me the
aka
chill.
the world's fastest half mile.
Yes. No, you need another hat with one of those sayings on it, man. We got to just get you decked out and all the.
I know, man. I'm telling you. Too Tough to Tame hat is my favorite hat in the game. Oh, all right.
What's your favorite football stadium's nickname? Like, but I love Death Valley's badass, but NASCAR has the best name for tracks.
Right.
I'm biased, but I'm right. My opinion's right, and no one else's matters because NASCAR is the best nicknames in the sport.
Yeah, I don't even want to give you football ones because this is just all NASCAR, and I agree. NASCAR ones are just fantastic, man. All right, so this is a new contest. I think I've got $2 left without redepositing here. So we're gonna go 8 out of 8 for 85x.
Wow. This is the one. We're gonna hit it this one.
This is it, dude. All right, so let's start at the bottom. Kurt Busch.
I think 13.5 is an easy number for Kurt Busch. We talk about it. He, in the early 2000s when he was, driving for a different team, different sponsor, different manufacturer, he was running this place. But I think everything that he's learned over the years and the wisdom is easy for him to achieve 13.5 points. Let's say he goes out and leads 20, 30 laps through some of these series and finishes in the top, 10. That's an easy get for KB.
All right. Love it, dude. Blaney, 14.5. I want to go less here, man.
So do I. I think that, the emotions are going to be high, even if he's up front early or middle to the race. There's a lot that goes on, and he has not been able to put one together. He is just he's got something going on with there's a snake in the grass and he keeps biting him. So I'm going to fade him.
All right, fair enough. It's just been disappointing, man, because we were high on him. He was running hot for a while in the middle of the year here, but he's really
surprisingly, I think if he loses or if he doesn't make the playoffs, the pressure's going to be off and he will turn it around instantly. And he will be someone that I look to get a win very quickly because he has been under a lot of scrutiny of recent because of his inability to finish and put a whole race together. So if he doesn't make it to the next round, he's going to be someone that I look at to be a party pooper very quickly.
All right. Love it, man. This is a tough one, man. All these numbers are so close here.
Oh, they're so big.
I know. So who do you want to fade right off the bat?
Harvick.
Here? You want to fade Harvick? Okay. Who else do we want to fade?
Oh, Elliott.
Elliott. Okay.
Up.
All right.
And so then I say we go more aggressive on logs.
And Kez.
Yeah, I'm between Kez or Busch. What are you thinking?
It's so hard for me to fade Denny Hamlin, man. It's like
at 20.5, we have never hit a more above 19.5.
You're right. So for that reason, I'm okay with fading him. It's just like I feel like every time I fade this man, he wins the race.
He's been quiet the last couple of weeks,
which means he's due.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of stuff going on too. I mean, we'll cover it in the topics ahead, but he's potentially going to be a NASCAR owner and be the owner of a team that Bubba Wallace is going to be driving for. So not only is he one of the most prevalent figures and winners in the sport right now, but he is but remember, he is the best driver without a championship, hands down. He has not made it to the promised land yet, but he has a ton of wins. He knows how to get his way around Bristol. This is a city home track for him. But 20.5, dude, that's a lot of points, knowing all the situations going on around him with points and teams and drivers.
So what you're telling me is he's distracted right now. He's got all this other shit going on. So let's fade him. Let's fade Kyle Busch too. We've been fading Kyle Busch all year. He's gonna crash. Let's get real here.
Let's do it. And then we're channeling our inner Bucky. Bucky would be, Kez and Logano. Let's do it. He'd pull out both hats, rally cap, forward and backwards. This is the Bucky picks right here.
This is the Bucky special. We're doing this just for you, buddy. I hope you're watching. $2 wins you 170.
Yeah, but you don't get any of the money, Bucky. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, dude. You didn't participate. We just did it there in spirit. But all right. So what else we got going on out there? I know the Bubba news. Bubba is leaving. Correct. He will not return to RPM.
Yeah, so he's come out and said that he is not going to be renewing his contract at RPM, and we've seen him have all kinds of success with sponsors, man. Like he has got DoorDash, he got Columbia, he has Cash App. Arguably, between Cash App and DoorDash, two of the most quickest growing brands among millennials, and he has the potential to bring in some of the largest amounts of money in sponsorships next year, no matter where he lands. Money equates to good equipment. Good equipment equates to wins, especially if all the rumors are true. And Denny Hamlin is going to be, the head honcho at Denny Hamlin Racing and taking Bubba to the promised land. So,
wait, I have questions about this. Sorry to interrupt, but would Denny still be racing? Like he'd be racing for his own team? That's legal?
You got it. So he wouldn't be racing for his own team. So what the kind of the situation, the rumors align with him speaking with Toyota to start a new alliance for his Denny Hamlin Racing team. Right now, all it is an NASCAR team where he has a couple of drivers racing for him and his quote unquote virtual team. But much like Tony Stewart, who was a driver owner and a driver owner champion, he is going to potentially own this team that has an alliance with Toyota, his manufacturer as well, but be separate of JGR, Joe Gibbs, but probably have an alliance with them. So he's setting himself up for long-term success. He's going to be the next Tony Stewart. I would love to see Denny Hamlin really, come in strong to close his career out over the next 7 to 10 years and, go out with 2 or 3 championships and be one of the next Rick Hendricks or Roger Penske's, because he has the personality. He has appeal across the motorsports lines, if you will. I mean, for God's sake, he is sponsored by the Jordan brand. Basketball, Jordan in NASCAR. That's kind of a pairing you don't see, and he has broad appeal. I think that is what makes him unique. He has a lot of experience under his belt, and he's really looking to pull this all together by acquiring the assets of Germain Racing. So this is a giant cluster F of just bullshit of the scenarios, but Denny Hamlin's making the most of it. So the 13 car renewed that or revealed that Geico is not coming back to sponsor them. They are likely going to sell all the assets with their team. Denny Hamlin expects potentially to buy that, convert that team from a Chevy to a Toyota team, and put Bubba in that seat. So then that creates Ty Dillon without a seat, and the silly season just starts shuffling. So there's a lot of butts that are that don't have permanent seats. That once these dominoes start to fall, man, it's going to be extremely entertaining, especially when hopefully Denny announces this kind of stuff.
So you mentioned Tony Stewart. I'm a big Tony Stewart fan, but when he was in NASCAR, he didn't own the team, right? You're saying what he did after he left NASCAR, more Tony Stewart, right?
So he drove with Joe Gibbs Racing in the number 20 Office Depot, Home Depot, all these different cars. But before he left, he started his own team and drove for himself.
Okay.
So
I
now
didn't know that was legal.
Yeah, Clint Boyer now drives Tony Stewart's old car.
Got it.
So there's instances of this in other places, like Joe Gibbs. He's kind of a player coach. He owned that NASCAR team while coaching in football. So it's one of those things where some of these athletes like Denny Hamlin and Tony Stewart have that broad appeal and that business acumen, in addition to that, just driving ability to be that trifecta or the triple threat to run these teams. It takes a certain person. But I think these kind of guys can do it and excel and do better than they did before they even owned these assets.
For sure, man. That's just short track racing.
Yeah, it's just short track racing. I need that as my ringtone when you text me or call me.
Dude, it's literally every time I see the GIF or GIF, whatever the kids are calling them, every time I see it on Twitter or on a group chat or whatever, I laugh out loud, and I feel like half my friends don't know why I think it's funny. But
yeah. You got to watch it 5 times and you laugh every time. I'm the same way.
That's right. All right. So other news.
Yeah, the stories are here. We'll run through them real quick. So, we had Larson with his mishaps earlier this year. Really what's looking to shape up is he's going to take the 48 at Hendrick. I think that's a match made in heaven. It's a Chevy team. Larson's a Chevy guy. He is going out and winning every race he puts his butt in his seat in, no matter if it's a modified, a wing car, sprint car, you name it. He is collecting hardware, and Hendrick loves winners, much like his former owner Chip Ganassi. I think that Larson's going to find a new home in that 48 and do really well. So they're looking forward to that. And then one of our buddies that Bucky cheers for from a long time, Kenseth is at Chip Ganassi Racing. He took over for Larson earlier this year. It's very unlikely. From from reports from him specifically that he's going to return next year. So that seat's going to be open. So the seats continue to kind of open here and start the shuffling. So we're going to be excited to kind of see what comes of that.
Man, I love it. NASCAR offseason is going to be lit.
It is, and not only is the offseason going to be great from a driver perspective, but gambling is becoming a lot more prevalent in the sport. They're passing a lot of different regulations and rules and guidelines to account and make room for gambling. So I love to see NASCAR in partnership with companies like Barstool Sports and Penn National Gaming to make this a much more inclusive experience for these patrons coming to the race and putting some money on the line.
Yeah, I mean, Penn stock's been skyrocketing just like DraftKings.
I love it, man. I got an average cost at like 950 of those guys. And they're like 70 something. I'm up like 800%. I'm back here like counting my money with Portnoy, man.
That was more me with DraftKings. I got into DraftKings at like $19 a share, and it's been going up too. And hey, even our partners, Monkey Knife Fight, they've been making waves. They just made an acquisition recently. Hopefully, they'll be going public soon. That is the new wave. But I look forward to the day when you can go to a NASCAR race and just walk up to a kiosk and put a 20 in on Denny to win. Like that is the future of gambling.
Yep, and I think it's safer than the current offerings. Like
100%.
Right now, people are calling their bookie and leveraging credit they don't have.
Exactly.
If you don't have cash in your pocket at the race, you cannot bet. And that is such a safer way to be a responsible bettor than the ways in which the government makes us do it now. So the sooner this stuff comes to fruition, the happier I'm going to be, the richer we're both going to be, and also the better the entertainment will be as well. Yeah,
absolutely, man. All right. Any other tidbits before we wrap up here?
Yeah, so we'll continue covering silly season. I mean, we have drivers like Suarez and LaJoy and Ty Dillon, some of these middle to back of the pack guys whose teams are up in the air, but they definitely have the talent and potentially some sponsorship and partnerships to really merit a seat next year. So excited to see where these guys kind of fall in the space. Speaking of other companies that I'm a stock owner in that also are related to NASCAR, Camping World extends their partnership with the Truck Series for next year. So the Gander RV and Outdoor Truck Series will be back. Marcus Lemonis, a CEO that I will follow blindly with my money, is killing it on the stock market. He's a supporter of NASCAR. That's a stock that has been killing it
Camping World
COVID times. Yep, CWH baby. Those
guys
have been doing great.
Man, there's not a better time to be in a camping stock than right now. Everybody just wants to be outside.
It is. You're right on. So good to see Marcus doing well. He acquired that company a couple of years ago, and I'd love to see him involved in NASCAR. And he was the guy who supported some of those bounties, putting up $50K of his own money, and it's good to see him involved. And again, I will follow him blindly until I can't follow anyone anymore. So the last kind of thing here to lead everyone on, something that I haven't seen in my NASCAR lifetime on this scale. Auto Club Speedway out there in your neck of the woods on the West Coast in California, they're going from a 2-mile layout to a half-mile layout. So they are going to take the front stretch of that track and turn it into a half-mile racetrack that resembles a Richmond, Martinsville, Bristol kind of just mutt, if you will.
Interesting.
Yep. So it'll be very long straightaways like Martinsville, but very high bank turns like Bristol with the dog leg of Richmond. So if you look at the Auto Club Speedway, it's a 2-mile track. It's effing huge, and they're gonna repurpose the what do you call it, the pit road as the backstretch, and really and fill in huge corners. This track is going to be wild. Next year will be a last year to race there, and it'll be ready to rock and roll for the 2022 season, apparently.
Ooh. Oh, man, love to see that. And hopefully next year we'll get back to Sonoma, too, speaking of California.
Yes, we'll be going to twice as many races next year when COVID passes, because I got a lot of NASCAR needs in my blood. I got to fill that bottle back up. But again, it's cool to see some of these drivers and owners and people in NASCAR, especially Auto Club Speedway, change the times. If you look at your region, we have no short tracks, quote unquote short tracks in the Western swing. Phoenix is considered a short track to some, but it's the more it gets updated, the further it goes away from it. So it'll be great to have a short track out there, in that West Coast swing after Daytona. they're going to be at Phoenix and Sonoma and Auto Club Speedway that will now have a short track. So it's a good mix up, and I think it's great for the sport. A lot of the drivers are saying it's a no-brainer, and I'm with them.
Love it, man. All right, to wrap us up, give us your winner for this weekend, or for Saturday night, I should say.
Joe Logano. Hurts.
I'm gonna go way out on a limb here, and I'm gonna say someone's gonna win. I'm gonna go Kurt Busch.
I like that.
The monster car just looks so good under the lights,
dude. That matte black and the sharp. I agree that, and he's a smooth character, man. He's always lurking around. He kind of reminds me of Keselowski. He's in the right place, right time, knows how to save his equipment, and someone who's been good to us in the past. So I'll support you in that pick. I like that one.
I've said him so many times as a long shot this year. He's got to win sometime, right?
There you go.
All right, buddy. It's been fun. Looking forward to Bristol under the lights on Saturday night. NRA, baby. yeah. The Bass Pro Shops NRA night race. So it should be a good one. Looking forward to it. Hope you guys enjoyed episode 34. If you're first time coming across our YouTube channel, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. If you never played on Monkey Knife Fight and you want to play, make sure you create an account, and with your first deposit, use code FOCUSED. And if you're just coming across our podcast, make sure you subscribe, leave us a review, and all that good stuff. Appreciate the support, and check us out on social media at BackOTPack. See you guys next week.
Yep. Turn to FS1. Trucks are racing right now.
Let's go.